Welcome back to Conversations at the Ranch with Dudley Hall. I'm Sam and can't wait to get into today's conversation with Dudley. Hey, today we're going to be talking about the idea of how do we live with peace, real peace, the peace that Jesus gives us. How do we live with that peace in a world that's constantly riddled with anxiety and fear and depression? I think this week's conversation with Dudley will be really helpful to you. I know it was helpful to me as we had it together, as we discover what it really looks like to live in peace. Hey, if you enjoy this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, share this video with somebody who would enjoy it, and hit the notification bell there on your screen so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. Thanks again for watching and enjoy the conversation. Dudley, maybe as a result of global unrest, maybe as a result of it being an election year, there's probably a lot of contributing factors, but there are a lot of Christians you know, people who proclaim Jesus as their source of hope, who are riddled with anxiety and fear. And the rhythm of their life and the rhythm of their day, even the rhythm of their hours, is not often marked by peace.
Yes.
And by like a regular knowledge of Christ's nearness to them and the peace that he brings. Share a quick story, throw it to you, because we need some counsel on how to live in peace. I was driving down to South Texas last Friday and got some news on the drive. It was a work-related issue that really angered me within about 30 seconds. I went from beautiful sunrise morning, driving over, the hills in South Central Texas, had just gotten my coffee at a little Hamilton, Texas truck stop, listening to a book, and get this news, and the pendulum swung real fast. I called Corinne and I just vented. I'm just angry, and she's like, "Whoa, it's a tidal wave," and I caught myself after that, and about a couple weeks ago, received some counsel from a friend where he just said, when you face a wave like that, you do have the option of unburdening that to the Lord and saying, God, I can't do anything about this. You're going to have to give me peace with that. So bolt on to that. We are given countless opportunities to live in fear and anxiety and let our emotions get out ahead of us. Counsel us a bit, would you, on how to live in peace?
Yeah, there's a passage that I was reading this week, actually, and try to put myself in it. That's what I do. I read a text and I'll go get in the text myself to try to feel it.
Yeah, sure.
So, okay. So let's go back to Egypt. Israel has been in Egypt. They've been there 400 years.
Okay.
And now the pharaohs have gotten really tough, and they're being oppressed. They're being abused. And so God says, I'll deliver you. And he uses Moses as his human instrumentality, and they get out. And Pharaoh is happy for him to go because they've got all these curses that have come upon them because of them. So they take off, and they're so glad. They're so happy. And they head out toward the promised land, this land that God's going to give them. But they get out close to the Red Sea, and that's beginning to worry them a little bit. And then they look behind them, and Pharaoh has changed his mind.
Yeah.
And this is the greatest military on the earth at that time.
Yeah.
So all these thousands of chariots, it's a cloud of dust and the sound of all these horses.
It's what they call between a rock and a hard place.
That's right. So they did what you did. They said, I don't know if you did this toward God but they said to Moses, okay, you didn't think there were enough graveyards in Egypt, so you just brought us out here to create a new graveyard.
Yeah.
So they're being irrational.
Right.
But their emotions are just absolutely running away. It's like, there's no way out. We can't get across the Red Sea, and we can't whip Pharaoh.
Just tunnel vision.
Yeah, exactly. And so what are we going to do? And so they criticized their leader, and they were ready to rebel and all that. Okay, so I got there, and I thought, yeah, okay, I can feel that. So I try to identify. Let's identify what you're dealing with there. You got a threat. You got this threat that you're of destruction, and you have this promise. You got a choice.
That's so good.
God said, I'll take you in. It's like, how?
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe me if I told you, because you'd back off.
Yeah.
But I'll take you in. I'm the God who brought you out of Egypt. Yeah. I'm the one who did all this. So I'll take you in. But you got this threat that looks more real, because the promise is kind of invisible. And so you got this threat of the Red Sea and the enemy behind you. I think, Sam, if I interpret my own life, there's always those two voices in my head. If you want to picture it, little birdie sitting on both shoulders.
Yeah.
And one of them reminded me of the promise that I belong to God, and that He is the husbandman doing all the pruning, and that He's going to take me through, and that the inheritance He's given to me is protected by angels in heaven, and that He's committed to me. So I got that. And then I got this threat of, I don't know how this is going to work. I have a choice at that point to yield to the threat. And then when I yield to the threat, then I start looking for the solution. And then that's when I create all the mess.
Yeah. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the conversation today. There's something special I want to invite you to be a part of. It's called Dudley's Weekly Word. Dudley's Weekly Word is our weekly email series that we drop in your inbox if you subscribe every Friday. This is Dudley's quick take on current events, different theological ideas, an inspirational message or devotional just to encourage you, educate you, and really bring into focus all that we're trying to convey here at Kerygma Ventures, that is essentially the good news of the gospel. I think you'd really enjoy it. You can subscribe to this weekly email by just clicking the button right here on the screen. Hey, we can't wait to get these messages to you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conversation.
So I think that pattern is true in the New Testament, because God has done for us in Christ Jesus everything that's necessary for us to live with joy.
Yes, sir.
Not necessarily with comfort, because Jesus. And one of the problems is that we have believed the lie that if you come to Jesus, there's no discomfort from then on. That when you get to Jesus, you got to heaven.
Right.
No, you didn't get to heaven. You got to Jesus. And Jesus said, I'm going to let you be partners with me, and I'm going to let you be my human instrument to confront all this darkness. And therefore, you need to know this. Since you are sharing my life, the people who hated me are going to hate you.
Yeah.
And those who made life hard for me are going to make life hard for you.
Yeah.
And once you know that, and you know that your calling was not to be comfortable and convenient, but your call was to shine the light, then rejoice over your sufferings.
Yeah.
Rejoice over your persecutions. Be exceedingly glad, because you are fulfilling your calling.
Right.
You're taking light to where darkness is. So one thing we need to get rid of is that idealistic view of, if you've come to Jesus, He's not going to let discomfort come.
Sure.
Well, that's just not true.
Right.
And so, but there is always that battle. And at my age, I still fight that battle. And so I'm learning to say to the Lord, when those moments come of surprise, it's like everything seems to be going good, and then all of a sudden the wheels come off. It's the first thing to say, Lord, did this surprise you as much as it surprised me? If it didn't, would you give me your piece here?
That's good. Yeah.
Because I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting this, and it's knocked me off kilter.
Yeah.
And if you've got another perspective, I'll take it.
Man, I think about the countless times I've like stepped into your study or stopped by your house to share something where it's like, this is a 10 and I need Dudley to know that it's a 10, and I'll go in and deliver to you my 10 level problem and you don't flinch, and it pisses me off, man, because I'm just like, am I not being clear? Like, this is a big deal, man. But you're never dismissive or demeaning about. I mean, you might have been dismissive once or twice, but you're never demeaning about it. There's just a perspective orienting piece over you and over other older men in my life that I draw from when I'm facing something. And so I think the question in my mid-30s has become, okay, is peace just some distant thing that once I'm 60 or once I'm 70 and I've lived enough life and gotten enough reps and seen enough problems, your 30-year-old level problems just aren't as big. They're just not as big of a deal. But I even think about some of the most significant things that you and I have walked through together, and thematically there's always been peace on you. I don't say that to say that you haven't struggled or there haven't been challenges you've encountered, but man, I long to live in that state, and I have recently just begun to believe or begun to question, like, I am living beneath my privilege. Like, what God created me for and freed me to is not a life of anxiety and fear when problems, great or small, arise. Yeah. I'm always faced with the privilege of the choice. I can embrace the threat or I can believe the promise. And so maybe that's the essence of my question. Are there any practical tips for believing the promise when the threat is much louder than the promise?
You can develop a habit of running to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to oversimplify what's not simple. It is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful that early on in my Christian life, I understood by God's grace that being a Christian was not knowing some truths and trying to live them up, live them out. It was not knowing that there was a right and that I should try to find it and do it. Mm-hmm. That being a Christian was being a friend with Jesus. Mm-hmm. And Sam, I knew that before I got any religious training because I, grew up on the farm and I was the last of 5 kids by 8-10 years. So I grew up kind of like an only child, and so I was my dad's favorite worker. Mm-hmm. So it would not be uncommon for my dad to say, "Hey, take the trailer and go over there and work on the back 40 and build that fence or whatever." So I spent a lot of time alone, and Jesus became my friend. Mm-hmm. And then later, when I went to church more, I discovered that I'm probably too sinful to be a friend of Jesus. And then the next stage was learning. No, he that's what it is. He came to live life with me.
Right.
So the picture I have of me is when the tough times come, I just run to him, and I just say, "Okay, I can't handle it."
Yeah.
I can't handle it. And if you've got a perspective that I need, give it to me. And I don't know. One day I was sitting in the office and a guy came by and he was from California, he was making a trip through Texas, and he said, I've heard your tapes and I've seen you some on TV and all, and I just wanted to talk to you a minute. It's okay. And I said, okay. He said, you seem to be calm. I just want to know, is that your temperament? I mean, is that God just blessed you with a calm temperament, or have you learned some ways of being calm? And I never had been asked that question, so I actually tried to think about it to give him an honest answer. So I heard myself saying this, and then I got through it, and I thought, I hope I believe that.
Yeah.
But I said to him, look, here's what God has revealed to me about himself. That he is so good, he can't do anything bad.
Yeah.
And that he is absolutely in charge of my life.
Yeah.
Even when I don't want him to be.
Sure.
That he has said, I will be faithful to you when you can't be faithful to me. And I said, I am so convinced that when we know as we're known, we get to heaven, whenever that is, once we know as we're known, we're all going to look around and go, oh, man, if I had known he was that involved and that committed, I would have laughed more.
Yeah.
And I would have rejoiced more.
Yeah.
So I said to the guy, I just decided a few years ago, which was true, if I get to heaven and I find out God is not as good as I thought he was, or he's not as in charge as I thought he was, I'll repent then. But until then, I've chosen to say, I'm going to try to act every moment as if God is ultimately good and God is ultimately in charge.
Yeah.